Hello and welcome. Today we'll provide an overview of how to report key member events for employers with only the DBplus plan design that are currently using payroll-based reporting. If your organization reports using automated data exchange using SFTP, some of today's content may not apply to your workflow, but you're welcome to stay for the overview. This webinar is part of our employer education program, which helps ensure accurate and timely reporting for your members. Here's our agenda for today. We'll walk through the most common member events that employers report, including retirements, terminations, pre-retirement deaths, disability leaves, and changes of employment information. Finally, we'll end off with a quick demo of where you can find these events in Pension Administration Link, our employer portal, or PAL. The presentation will be recorded and made available on our website. Presenting with me today is Deepak Patel, and we are both Employer Initiatives Leads in Employer Services. Before we really get started, let's take a quick pause for a poll question. You'll see the response options come up on your screen, and we'll give you a minute to respond. And the question is, what best describes your reason for attending today? And the options are learning the basics for the first time, or maybe you're brushing up on some processes that you've done before, or troubleshooting a current reporting issue you're having, or maybe staying up to date with any changes. All good reasons for being here. And we hope we can help you with all those things today. Let's see the results. Yeah, a lot about staying up to date. Great idea. And processes you've done before in case there's something new. And just a reminder, if you're troubleshooting a current reporting issue, we do have some question periods. You might be able to raise that then, or we encourage you to give a call to your pension analyst and they can probably help you with that. But for now, I'm going to pass it over to Deepak.
Thank you, Linda. Whatever your top challenge is, we'll be covering practical steps today to help streamline each of these events. Retirement is one of the events where timing really matters, so let's make sure we're aligned on what CAT means by retirement and how to report it smoothly. Before initiating the retirement process, it's important to be clear about when members become eligible to retire under the terms of the CAT pension plan. The term retirement may mean many different things to different people. However, the way it is defined by the plan, retirement means a member is eligible to start an immediate lifetime monthly pension. Under DBplus, members can retire as early as age 50 and no later than up to November 30th of the year they reach age 71. The maximum age to start a pension is a rule in tax legislation. A member must start receiving their pension by the end of the year they turn 71. This is the one scenario in which a member can work and collect a pension at the same time. If a member doesn't meet the age requirement for retirement and leaves employment, it's considered a termination. Before we get into the details about how to report a retirement, let's look at some general guidelines. CAT prefers that you report a member's intent to retire up to 3 months prior to the date of retirement, if the employee has given you that much notice. This gives the plan enough time to process the retirement, so the member receives their first pension payment on their desired pension start date. It also gives the member enough time to review the retirement option package and make their election. You don't need to project the member's earnings or contributions when reporting a future retirement. CAT will prepare the retirement option package based on the earnings and contributions we have on file at the time the retirement is reported. You will continue sending the earnings and contributions up to the retirement date in the regular payroll files. Once we receive the final earnings and contributions up to the retirement date, we will recalculate the benefit, and if the member's pension is in pay, they will receive a retroactive lump sum for the difference and a recalculated pension going forward. To ensure new retirees receive their first payment on time, they must submit their completed retirement option document and any supporting documentation prior to the processing deadline. You can refer to the pension processing dates in the retirement section of the employer manual for deadlines and pension payment dates. Any further pension revisions under the final adjustment have a recalculation threshold. The pension will be recalculated only if the total of employer and member contributions combined has changed by $140 or more. This is a high-level overview of the retirement process. Your first step is to report the retirement status to CAT using the options available to you based on your data reporting method. That is, for those using payroll-based reporting, PBR, you have the option to report the RET status code in your PBR file. If you're reporting a retirement in advance, you would still use the RET code and keep the pension adjustment column in the DR tab blank, along with all your usual biweekly or monthly contribution data in your PR tab. This is the preferred method for reporting retirement, and we'll look at this more closely in a minute. As a second option, you can complete a pension application in PAL. We'll also look at this a bit later. When we get to step 2, CAT calculates the member's pension and sends a retirement option package to the member within 30 days of receiving the retirement request. For members who are registered for the member portal and have chosen electronic delivery, the retirement package will be available in My Pension as part of our Retire Online feature, and the member will receive a notification. Otherwise, the package is sent by mail. Next, the member returns the completed retirement option documents with any required supporting documentation to CAT. They can do that online using My Pension if they are registered or by mail. Employers are able to see the progress of retirements in PAL. Finally, if the member has opted for an immediate pension, we will set up the member's monthly pension on the next available payment date, and the member will receive it for life. If members are interested in a pension purchase or transfer calculation, this must be completed before the retirement process is initiated. This will help to ensure the pension is paid on time. The timing for a purchase or transfer can vary, but a good general rule would be to allow 2 to 3 months. Let me walk you through what this looks like in your actual PBR file. The file submission requires the retirement e-status code, which is RET. Then you must provide the e-status e-date, which is the date of the member's retirement date. The retirement date is the last day of the month in which the member last made contributions or will make contributions to the plan. You will also need to provide the pension adjustment in the column D2PA and the D2PA year, which is always the last day of the calendar year of the retirement. If you're reporting the retirement date in advance, up to 3 months in advance, in the file, you would not report anything for the pension adjustment and keep the D2PA and D2PA year columns blank because earnings are not final. And when you report the member's final earnings and contributions for the period up to their retirement date, you will then report the pension adjustment in that future file. In the Parameters tab, you would include your employer number as usual, and the date you include in the pay date column should match the pay date from your payroll schedule that you have provided to CAT, which falls on or after the retirement date. In this example, it is April 30th, which matches the retirement date. Once the file is received, CAT will begin to process the retirement. If the member is registered for My Pension, they will be able to manage their retirement option documents using the member portal, and you will be able to track the progress of the retirement using the employer portal PAL. Please note that submitting pension applications using PAL is not applicable to employers who are using the automated data exchange method for reporting their payroll data, so the next few slides may not be applicable to you. Another way to submit a retirement is using the employer portal PAL. To get started, select Pension Application from the left-hand menu. Then find the member by entering either the member's social insurance number, member ID, first name, or last name, and click Submit. The member ID is their CAT ID, not their employee ID. When you click Submit, PAL will list the members that fit the criteria you have entered. After selecting the member, you'll be taken to the pension application page. The member employment information section asks you to enter the member's last day worked and retirement date. In most cases, the last day worked is the same as the last day that the member worked for the employer. There may be some special situations. For example, a member may be provided with a pensionable severance payment. In such a situation, the last day worked is the same as the last day for which the member was paid for their work and made contributions to the plan. The retirement date is the last day of the month in which the member last made contributions to the plan. PAL will display the member personal information, member contact information, employment history, and earnings history. Select No for the question, do you have any new earnings to report? As earnings and contributions are always provided through your PBR file. Enter leave information in the Leaves Reported section, but only if applicable. This information would be required if the member has been on a leave of absence in the calendar year and you have not yet reported it. Answer the 2 questions under termination details to indicate if you know if the member is leaving to work for another CAT employer or if they are currently employed at another CAT employer. If you don't know, you can select Unknown. Your name and the date will be automatically populated in the Employer Authorization section. Once you've completed the information, you can save the transaction. You may want to save it if you still need more information to complete it. PAL validates everything before submission, so if something's missing, you'll know before it goes to us when you click Validate. You will need to correct any errors before clicking Send to CAT. After you've successfully saved the pension application, you'll be automatically redirected to the dashboard. You will be able to see the pension application in your recent activity in Transactions in Progress sections. You can also retrieve the pension application you saved from the Transactions in Progress section. Saved transactions that haven't been submitted to CAT will expire approximately 45 days after the date the transaction was last saved. A system-generated email notification will be sent 30 days after the transaction was last saved. If the transaction is not resaved or submitted to the plan, a final reminder will be sent 15 days later. If not actioned, the transaction will be purged from PAL. After you've submitted the transaction, the pension application will appear in your dashboard under the Recent Activity and Transactions Sent to CAT sections. A self-serve Retire Online feature is available for members, allowing members to elect and manage their retirement options and related documents online through My Pension. For your convenience, a feature in PAL also allows you to view the progress of a member's retirement request. Here's how the process will work. A member will notify their manager or HR department to start their retirement process through the regular channels with the employer. You will then submit the member's pension application to CAT through PAL. Both you and the member will be able to track and receive status updates on the application online on the member and employer portals. To find the status of a member's retirement, simply log into PAL and search for the member. If their retirement transaction is in progress, you'll see a retirement status tracker on their information page, which shows the retirement steps from start to finish. Green check marks will give you an indication of the progress. Retire Online will make the retirement process easier for members and more transparent for employers. If you have any members retiring soon, we ask you to encourage them to activate their My Pension accounts as soon as possible. Under Revise Information, check the box for Are you reporting a data change? This will unlock all the data fields. Proceed with updating the applicable information, and once complete, run validations and resubmit the application to CAT. We recommend making any revisions as early as possible so the member's pension reflects accurate information. Pension applications can be revised up to May 31st of the year after the retirement date. For instance, if a member retires April 30, 2026, the pension application can be revised up to May 31st, 2027. Next, let's talk about terminations. This is the event you'll encounter whenever a member under the age of 50 leaves your organization. What defines a termination from CAT pension plan? A member is terminated when they end their employment with all their CAT participating employers and are not yet eligible for retirement. Eligibility is based on the member's age only. For example, if a 45-year-old employee resigns, that's a termination from the plan's perspective, even if they're moving to another job. Following a termination of employment, a member who is not eligible to retire at the date of termination will enter the 24-month extension of membership period, or EOM. This means when a member terminates employment with their employer, they are not terminated from the CAT plan right away. A member who works at more than one CAT participating employer must terminate employment at all participating employers before being eligible for a benefit. In this case, The EOM period will begin when they terminate from the last place of work. Annual pension statements are sent to members during the EOM period. During the EOM period, members have a few options. If a member starts employment with another CAT employer, the member will continue to accrue a benefit under the plan. Contributions to CAT must resume at the new enrollment date. A member can transfer the value of their CAT pension benefit to a new employer's pension plan, provided the new employer is not a CAT participating employer and has a Canadian registered pension plan that agrees to accept the funds. We require a written request from the member to initiate this type of transfer. Lastly, a member can start their monthly CAT pension benefit if they become retirement eligible within the EOM period. Between the time they first become eligible for retirement and the end of the EOM period, the member can choose to start their monthly pension by contacting us. If the member does not contact us, we will send them a retirement package at the end of their EOM period. The pension amount in this retirement package will be calculated based on the plan's provision for retirement from active status. If the member has not become retirement eligible during the EOM period, a termination option package will be mailed to the member when the EOM period ends. They will have an option to defer their pension to start at age 65 or sooner with a reduction. If a member elects a deferred pension at the end of their EOM period and subsequently returns to work either part-time or full-time, they must re-enroll immediately. It is up to the member to notify you if they were previously enrolled with a CAT employer. Another option the member has is to transfer out the commuted value of their pension. The commuted value can be transferred out to their personal locked-in retirement savings vehicle or to another employer's pension plan, if that plan will accept the transfer. Once a member has transferred out a commuted value, no further benefit entitlement is payable from the plan. This slide shows the steps in the termination process. CAT recommends to report a termination status through your payroll-based reporting file. Alternatively, complete a termination of employment process through PAL. If you are trying to complete a termination process for someone who is retirement eligible, PAL will actually catch this for you, and you'll receive a pop-up notification prompting you to complete a pension application instead. CAT mails a letter to the member explaining the options during the EOM period. At the end of the EOM period, we automatically send the option document to the member. The member is responsible for returning the completed form along with the required documentation. CAT will process the termination based on the option elected. If members do not respond to their termination option package within 6 months, they will be deemed deferred and will no longer be eligible to transfer their commuted value to a locked-in vehicle. All deferred members receive a deferred annual statement by June 30th each year. Here we have an example of how to report a termination event for a member on the PBR file. On the demographic record or DR tab, the column E-status has the applicable code TER, and the next column, E-status E-date, has the termination date. The pension adjustment is provided in the column D2PA, and then the date in the next column, D2PA year, is the end of the calendar year in which the termination occurred. On the payroll record or PR tab, the T date is normally the end of the pay period. But for this member, we enter the member's termination date in the T date column. That's because the member's termination date occurred before the end of the pay period. This is one of the most common errors during validation we see. Make sure the T date reflects the actual termination date, not the end of the pay period. Before we move on, let's take your questions on retirement and termination reporting.
All right. We do have a few questions, and I believe that some were answered during the presentation, so thank you, Deepak. I have a question about termination. What happens if a termination status is sent on the PBR file for someone who is over the age of 50?
That's a great question. Actually, we do, our PBR file in portal will automatically recognize that the member is retirement eligible. And so although you would have reported a code of TER, it will automatically update it to a retirement for that member, and then a retirement calculation will be processed for them.
Thank you. Another question is, if an employee is of retirement age, resigns from their position, does the employer record termination or retirement in PBR or PAL?
Thank you for the question as well. Yeah, so in this scenario as well, the employer would still record a retirement. Although the member may not be retiring and collecting a pension, we would still be processing the retirement package for them, and the member could simply defer their pension benefit.
Excellent. I do not have any other question in the chat. I will check if there's any hands up. No hands up.
Perfect. So I'll now pass it over to Linda to continue.
Thanks, Deepak. Next, we'll review pre-retirement death reporting. These can be sensitive situations. Our goal is to make this process as clear and straightforward as possible. CAT pays a pre-retirement death benefit if a member passes away before they retire. For pre-retirement death, employers are responsible for reporting the death of an active member or a member who is on a leave, including a disability leave. Pre-retirement death benefits would also apply to members who have terminated and are on the EOM period from the plan or are members with a deferred pension with the plan. Survivor benefits are paid according to a specific order of eligibility. The eligible spouse is the primary recipient of the survivor pension benefit, even if the member has designated a beneficiary who is not their eligible spouse. For members employed in Ontario and Nova Scotia who have no eligible spouse but have eligible children, the children will receive a children's pension. If the member has neither an eligible spouse nor eligible children when they pass away, their designated beneficiaries or their estate, as applicable, will receive the pre-retirement death benefit in a lump sum payment. For members employed in jurisdictions outside of Ontario and Nova Scotia that do not have an eligible spouse, their designated beneficiaries or their estate will receive the pre-retirement death benefit in a lump sum payment. There is no children's pension in these other jurisdictions. To report a pre-retirement death, complete a death benefit application and submit it to CAT. Include contact details and financial data up to the date of death if that data hasn't been reported yet. We ask you to use PAL so the reporting is done as soon as possible without waiting for a payroll file. If there is an eligible spouse, the spouse will provide their own proof of age as well as proof of age for the member. They will also have to provide proof of death and proof of marriage or a declaration of common law status. They can provide these documents directly to CAT or to the employer when they sign the application form. We will calculate the survivor benefits and mail the pre-retirement death option package to the member's eligible survivor. The eligible survivor will forward the completed signed option document and the supporting documentation to CAT. Then we will process the payments once we have received all the completed forms. The death benefit will not be processed until proof of death and the member's proof of age have been received. The death benefit application is located in the employer manual under the forms library in the benefit application section. You can access the employer manual from PAL. We'll now review the process for reporting members who are on a disability leave of absence. The information we're providing today represents our standard disability provisions. If the disability provisions that are in your participation agreement are different than the standard provisions, the terms in your agreement would apply. If a member becomes disabled and begins a disability leave, they are eligible to continue to earn a pension benefit under the disability provisions of the plan if they are determined to be disabled and in receipt of either long-term disability benefits through an employer-sponsored insurance provider or benefits under a workers' compensation plan, such as WSIB in Ontario. If a member wishes to contribute during the leave, they will contribute based on the disability earnings they receive from your insurance provider or through a workers' compensation plan. The member must elect to contribute, and the appropriate disability notice and election forms will be required. All contributions made by the member will also receive employer contributions. If a member elects not to contribute, there are no employer contributions required during the disability period. If the member returns to work, this period will not be eligible for purchase. Members in Ontario receiving disability benefits under WSIB will stop contributing to DBplus for the first 12 months and will continue to earn a pension during this period. After this 12-month waiver period, the member will be given the option to contribute to the plan based on actual earnings received from WSIB. When the contribution waiver period is coming to an end, you should provide the member with an election form at that time. For members who go on a disability leave, you will need to report this event to CAT in the payroll-based reporting file and by submitting the appropriate start notice and election form. Download the applicable form from our employer manual and complete the appropriate sections. The member must also make their election on this form to indicate whether they want to contribute or not contribute while on disability leave. You will also need to work with the member to ensure they have the information they need to make a decision about continuing to contribute to the plan. If the member elects to contribute, you will collect the member's contributions and submit the member and employer contributions to CAT. When the member returns to work, report the updated status to the plan in your payroll-based reporting file. If the member elects to stop contributing but is still on disability leave, report the status update in the payroll-based reporting file and submit the completed stop notice and election form to CAT. Please note that this is our standard disability process, and employers' disability provisions may differ, so your pension analyst is your best resource for specific guidance. And here's a look at where you can find the disability leave forms in the employer manual. We'll finish with changes of employment, which allow you to update or correct membership information. The change of employment process advises the plan of any changes to the member's employment information. The most common changes we see are corrections to hire dates and enrollment dates. If you catch an error, complete a change of employment form that you can find in the employer manual. Submit the completed form using Message Center in PAL. Changes will be updated in our administration system and be immediately accessible to your members in My Pension. This is where you can find the change of employment form in the employer manual. It's under the Forms library under Change of Information Forms. Now I'm going to pass it over to Tahira, who will show you in PAL where you can find the various transactions that we discussed today.
Thank you very much, Linda. So now I will walk you through a short demo to show you these processes that Linda just discussed in real time. As I said, this is a test environment that I'm using, so there is no real member data shown. There may be minor differences in what you see on your end and the actual menu that I'm sharing. But generally, it will be the same thing. First, I will be showing you where to find pension applications. This section can be used. First of all, pension application will be here on the left-hand side of the menu. This section is used to report a member's upcoming retirement and start their pension. As we have already mentioned earlier in this webinar, you will be using member information to find the member, and the search will show you the result of the selected member. You select your member and you move forward with the next steps. Next, we will move to termination section. This section will be used to report a member's termination of employment. Under this section, same concept, you will be using members' information to select the member in the search results. We will now move on to reporting few life events that must be reported through forms. As Linda mentioned, all forms are available in the member's employer manual and employer's manual. When you click on the employer manual, it will take you to your portal. Going back, as we mentioned earlier, all the forms are available in their forms library. If you want to report a pre-retirement death, it will be under the benefit application. You click on the plus sign, and you will find the form death application. This is how the death application form looks like. Next, going back to the employer manual, if you wish to report a disability leave form, you have view disability either to start or stop, depending on the employer's jurisdiction. If it is outside of Ontario, you will use the DBplus member start notice and election form for LTD and WCB. If it is for someone within Ontario, then you will be using this form, which is the start of form workplace safety and insurance for WSIB form. And just for your reference, this is how the form looks like. Next, if you wish to report a change of information or employment, you will be selecting change of information form. Under this section, you will find change of employment, and this is what the form looks like. This brings us at the end of the demo. I will now pass it over to Linda for final questions and closing.
Thanks for that demo, Tahira. That was great. We'll open the floor now for any final questions. If you can let us know if anybody's typed any in the chat.
Yes, we do have a few questions. I had an employee go on STD and was not contributing to CAT. They returned for 2 days and then went back on STD. How do I report this in the DR tab of the PBR?
Thanks, Tahira. So for that type of scenario, you would report that as a leave of absence on your PBR file. So it would be an LOA that you would be reporting.
Thank you, Deepak. So next question is disability leave the same as sick leave?
No, so in that scenario, those are two different types of leaves. So disability leave really would mean for long-term disability or for example, for a member in Ontario, WSIB. Sick leave would be more of a statutory type of leave, so there would be a different code for that one, which I believe is STL, or if it is a different type of leave, such as pregnancy, they have their own codes for that as well.
Thank you, Deepak. Any other questions?
Actually, sorry, there's two more written questions. Yes. So just to follow up to the short-term disability question.
I see.
Yeah. So they're asking if after reporting the LOA code, do they need to provide an ACT code for the return back to active status for those 2 days? And so if all of the you would provide an ACT code. So if that is a scenario, then what you can do is you can actually use the eStatus2 column. And if you don't have it, then please reach out to your employer PA, and they can assist you with setting that up in the PBR file so that you can report multiple employment status codes in your demographic tab. And yeah, and then the last question is, if an employee is terminated and they are older than 50, the PBR tab has to say RET and not TER. So that is So that is correct. So if a member is terminated and they are older than 50, the PBR tab should say RET. However, if you did report a TER code for termination, our system will automatically update that to a retirement for the member. So again, it's not something that you'll have to change if you've done it in the past or even if you do it in the future. However, if you do just make note of it, then it won't produce a warning.
Thank you, Deepak.
Looks like there's one more question coming in.
Yes.
If we have someone expecting to go on long-term disability in 4 months, do we still do the forms or put the LOA and then active dates in the tab, or do we do the forms as well? So an LOA code would not be used for long-term disability. There are a different code that would be used for long-term disability. LOA is simply for an unpaid leave of absence. So you would still need to do the forms once the member does go on leave, and the main part of the form would be for the member to indicate whether they are contributing during the LTD period or if they will not be contributing. And definitely please reach out to your pension analyst for further information on that.
Deepak, just to clarify, if just really asking you, if an employee is on a short-term disability leave, but they're still being paid, that's kind of the differentiating factor. We just leave them as active status.
Correct.
So it's not as important to CAT. What we need to know is their pay continuing or has it stopped, because that'll impact their contributions. So
that's right. Thank you.
On the other hand, if you have a short-term disability plan, like an insured plan, and they're being paid by the insured insurance company, their pay might be different. So you can send us a code for that and then continue to send the contributions. So are there any more questions, Tahira?
I don't see any other questions coming in or any hand up.
Hope everyone will stay with us for a bit because we have one more poll question. We'd love for you to participate. So we're going to pause for this one. Again, you'll see the response options come up on the screen, and we'd like to know which member event creates the most rework for you or back and forth for your team. And our options will show in a second, and they are retirement applications, terminations, pre-retirement death reporting, disability leaves, or changes of employment.
All right, so we have the answers to our poll. 29% of our respondents have retirement application issues. 53%, most of them is regarding disability leaves. So I think a lot of our audience has questions regarding disability. Okay.
Yeah, that is a complex one. Thanks for all your input. This concludes our presentation for today. Our next employer education session is scheduled for July 9th, and we will provide an overview of enrollment and eligibility for plan members. Invitations will be sent out 2 weeks prior to the session. When you leave today's meeting, you'll have an opportunity to complete a brief survey, and we would really appreciate you taking the time to complete the survey, as this will help in making these sessions more valuable to you. Thanks for attending today's session, and have a great day, everyone.